Y'all, I feel so dumb. Thank you so much, Jamal. I love my people. I love my people. Thank you. Good afternoon, Jamal. It's good to see you. Good afternoon, everybody else. Welcome to another Bomb Live here at the lunch hour. We got a few things to discuss today. I am going to be talking about a woman who got unalived by her jailbird boyfriend that she waited on. I'm also going to be talking about the Austin Metcalf case. The official police report has come out. And I'm also going to show y'all an actual self-defense lawyer who breaks down Texas penal code. It's not looking good for your boy Carmelo Anthony. As a matter of fact, the self-defense lawyer who specializes in this said this is not a case that he would want to have to try to argue. I'm also going to talk about the whole Kevin Gates, Brittany Renner, Drika Gates side chick situation. Y'all, if y'all see my hair blowing, it's because I got the fan on. Y'all let me know if it's too loud though, because I will turn it off. It's just y'all here in Medellin, because it is between 70 and 80-degree weather, really between like 70, like if it gets to 90, they think they're in hell, okay? Because of this, most of the apartment buildings are not equipped with air conditioning. It's not, even if you go to the nicest part of town, it's not common to have air conditioning. So I'm hot. Like today is particularly hot because it's been raining. With that said, I'm gonna talk about this first case. Let me pull it up. That caught my attention on Instagram. Hold on. What you say? I don't really feel Brittany Renner is genuine at all. And I think it's cute but overrated. I don't think she's genuine in the religion. Kevin Gates is not. I don't know. I don't know. We'll talk about it when we get there. We'll talk about it because to me, Kevin Gates is not serious about his walk like he claims to be either. Oh, before I put this on, guys, look, I told you I'm gonna start bringing some food during the lunch hour. I have some watermelon with tahine. Do y'all see that? In Texas, we eat our watermelon with tahine. I think that's because there's just it's that's like a Mexican culture influence thing, but it's very common to eat our watermelon with tahine or lime or something like that. So it's something really light because honestly and truly, I'm not eating 3 meals every day. I had breakfast this morning. I'm gonna have this for lunch. You know, it's summertime. We're trying to get snatched, and then for dinner, I'm probably gonna have some like ground beef or something. Something simple. Okay, let me make sure y'all can see that. Okay, so this was from On Site on Instagram. The caption reads, she waited 3 years while he served time in a Cuban prison. Less than 2 weeks after reuniting in the US, he fatally stabbed her. Wow. I saw another case like this with a mother, actually. Her son had been in jail for 3 years. He came out, and like a couple weeks later, he unalived not only the mom, but his younger brother. Crazy. So it says a woman in Jacksonville, Florida, was brutally stabbed just days after her boyfriend arrived in the U.S. from Cuba. Guys, I briefly dated a Cuban guy, and he was telling me how it's not uncommon for them to unalive women on that island, especially if they suspect them of cheating or they've caught them cheating, which I mean, let's be honest, it's very common in that culture. I love Cuban people. You know, shout out to the Cubans in Miami, but y'all know I ain't telling no lies. Police say 38-year-old Carlos Jordanes Aldana fatally stabbed his girlfriend, 30-year-old Yanelis Casales, in their apartment on March 30th. The two had been in a long distance relationship for 6 years while Aldana was in Cuban prison. He had just served 3 years. When he was released, Casales was excited for him to start a new life in the US. She posted a happy message on social media after picking him up from the airport on March 16th, saying, "You're the dream I always prayed for. Welcome home." Ladies, first of all, she's beautiful. And this is tragic. She is a gorgeous woman. Ladies, I need y'all to have some self-esteem, because if you're out in the free and she's in, where is this at? Jacksonville, Florida. I know Florida got fine men. How is the man in Cuban prison your dream? Like, you got to know that God wants better for you. He honestly and truly does. And I'm like, I'm not even trying to be funny. Like, y'all self-esteem got to be like, God has much better for me. I think what it is when these ladies start dealing with men in prison, it's the distance. It's the game that these men run. The sweet talking. First of all, let me tell you something. Spanish men, they got that mouthpiece. I say this all the time. Geminis and Spanish men got mouthpieces. Okay. And people will probably get mad because I'm saying Spanish because he's Cuban. Yes, I know Spain is a country. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Spanish speaking men. Okay. They got a mouthpiece on them. Right? I mean, it's easy to get finessed. It's a part of the language. The language is just more romantic, you know? But with that said, you would like, girl, you gotta be used to it by now. You're Cuban, you're used to these men sweet talking you. Like, if anybody should be immune to like jail talk, it should be a Latina. Like, that should just be like, baby, I hear that all the time. And again, I honestly and truly feel bad for her because and I brought this up because this is not just her. I see so many women dealing with men in jail. I've seen it before to where the woman didn't even know this man before he went to jail. The men are pulling them from jail. Like, you know, they got phones now. They're going live on TikTok. They're going live on Instagram, and they're pulling these women off of social media and in the DMs and things like that. That should not be going on, ladies. Gates is real ninja though. I think he's funny. I like him. I like Kevin Gates. Are you race baiting, Mariah? How am I race baiting? Oh, because I said what they be doing. Where's my ninja D Malley? Right, where is D Malley? I had a Cuban cougar. She was yummy, and I was drunk the whole little relationship. Let me tell y'all, Cuban people are a good time. Cuban people are a good time. When I was in Dallas and I used to work in the nightclubs, we used to have Cuban night, right? No night was more turned or more lit than Cuban night, especially when we have a Cuban artist. They can dance. When I tell y'all, don't nobody get drunk and dance all night long and dance with rhythm too. And what I love about Cuban people is you will see so many, you know, you're gonna see all colors of the rainbow with Cuban people, but they all got rhythm and they like to keep themselves up. They like to keep themselves looking good. Now I used to roast the men because they would come in there with them little sparkly, sparkly Balenciagas and too much gel in their hair. But it would be a good time. I love working on Cuban nights. Cuban rum, yeah, Cuban rum and Dominican rum. Okay, that Brugal, baby, you finna have a good time. You get on that Brugal. Anyway, let me continue reading. But less than 2 weeks later, everything went wrong. Police say Aldana stabbed Casales 15 times. So to me, that seems like a crime of passion. He probably found out that she had other men. That's what it sounds like to me. This sounds like a situation where he saw some stuff he didn't want to see in her phone. He might have been getting his bussy bust the whole time he was in jail, but he come home and see that she talking to some dudes while he's in jail, and now he got a problem. Okay. When officers arrived, they found her body inside the apartment. Aldana was also there with self-inflicted injuries. So then he did stuff to himself. So I'm wondering if he like stabbed himself. What? He's crazy. He is now charged with second-degree unaliving and is being held in jail without bond. Keep him in there. He looked crazy. He looked crazy. Look at this man's eyes. He looked crazy. That bottom picture with him in the red. right here. Oh yeah, he looked crazy. Now, don't get it twisted. I wanted to share this. First of all, rest in peace, right? Rest in peace to this beautiful young woman. Again, her name is Yanelis Casales. Rest in peace. Um, and I want to say this, like, this is a message, this is a cautionary tale to these women. Stay away from these men that are in jail, that just got out of jail. I had a situation like this where a whole kind of like a whole friendship of years ended between a friend, one of my friends, and another friend, and even me, because I had a friend meet a dude in jail. The dude was in jail on robbery charges. She swore up and down that he was over, like that was a changed man, even though he pulled her from jail. She didn't know him before jail. Okay. Then what happened was, one of my friends tried to say, think about what you're doing. You have your whole life ahead of you. She didn't listen. So that friendship was on the rocks. And then the dude got out of jail. He ended up playing her and getting with a chick that he really wanted. And then my ex-friend became the side chick. And then what happened is, this dude ended up trying to unalive his main chick, the one he really liked, the one he really wanted to be with. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but they were arguing. They were in the car. He put her head in his lap and tried to pew pew her in the neck. It went through her neck, hit his leg. He tried to make it to the hospital. He was the one that ended up unaliving himself, and she lived, right? Meanwhile, my ex-friend was pregnant, a few weeks pregnant, decided to keep the baby. She was super mad at the chick that he tried to unalive. So then it was kind of like a situation. We going to the baby shower, and she got cut out. She got cutouts of this man. Like, the whole city of Dallas don't know what he tried to do to his real girlfriend. And she expecting people to take pictures with her and the cutouts of the dude. And after that, it was kind of like, nah, sis, we can't. You too far gone. You too far gone. And you already like put him before your friends, you know? So, and that's what I'm saying. I don't understand how these men be getting in y'all heads like that. What a clown. That's a mugshot. Everybody look crazy. You would too. And women love dudes in jail. Women's favorite men are guys who are, what does that say? Unalived, and or what? You gotta say what you trying to say, Jamal. I don't like jail dudes. I don't like jail dudes at all. Now I'm not gonna like try to front. I've dated I dated a guy before that if he would have got caught up, he could have went to jail, right? But like, I would have never like, I don't know. I don't know. I would have, a dude can't pull me from jail. You know what I'm saying? Or that's kind of like one of those situations where whether or not you go to jail and I actually wait on you depends on if we were married before you went to jail and how you treated me. You know, you can't be like a young thug and out here still have all these women and doing wrong. But I do feel like if a woman is married to a man and she was living off of the lifestyle that he provided illegally, then I don't necessarily feel like she dumb for holding him down. But it also depends on what did you do? What did you do? If it was a situation where you unalive somebody and you're just a violent person, like, girl, leave him where he at. I know women who have held men down who were their husbands and they did like white collar crime or something like that. That's way different than somebody being violent. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's true. I see what you're saying. Okay, let's get into the Austin Metcalf case. Now, before I pull up this lawyer, let me say this. I'm from Texas. I know my state. I know we not going for the foolishness that y'all been on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter talking. I already knew from the moment that I heard the story that the state of Texas is not going for it. I didn't have to pull up any laws. I'm already knowing. See, here's the thing. People think that because Texas is a hard stand your ground state, and because we respect Second Amendment rights, that it's a anything goes over here. And that's not true. All we do over here is respect the Second Amendment. And I'm sorry for those of y'all who live in liberal states and you think that that is just such a wild concept. But these are rights guaranteed to us by US citizens. So Texas does not make it hard for you to obtain a pew pew if you want to. There are laws, though. The expectation is that you know the law, you understand when you can and cannot use one, and that you handle it responsibly. But they let you be an adult. But here's the thing, they'll give you enough rope to hang yourself. Secondly, stand your ground does not mean, in the state of Texas at least, I don't know about anywhere else, it does not mean that somebody comes up in your face and you that automatically gives you a right to use lethal force. What it means in Texas is you don't have to walk away from the situation. Does that make sense? So, for example, let's say you're getting into it with somebody and something happens, whether it's some type of physical assault or, there it ends up in somebody's life being taken. The jury doesn't have to consider the possibility of you could have walked away. No, you don't have to walk away, right? That's all that means. People be taking stuff too far and go from 0 to 1,000 real quick. And that's why you have to know the law. Because a lot of y'all are walking around here, toting these weapons and things of that nature, and you're completely ignorant to the law. So if somebody jump in your face and you think you can just go to the car and pull you're going to prison, at least in the state of Texas. Okay. So y'all need to know the law. Anyway, I'm gonna pull up this TikTok before I share the lawyer. I'm gonna pull up this TikTok of Charleston White. Y'all give me a second. A lot of people are upset with Charleston White. They call him, some people I've been seeing him call him the modern day Uncle Ruckus. And here's the thing, y'all just don't like criticism. That's what I've noticed. Anybody who speaks truth, anybody who says these are the problems going on with the Black community, y'all don't want to listen to what nobody has to say. Therefore, we don't grow. Therefore, we don't grow. And I'm saying this is somebody who I've never, even as an adult, I've never lived in a white community. I've always lived around other Black people. For those of y'all who think I don't like Black men, my daughter's dad is from Africa. And after him, I was in a long-term relationship with a Black man. I lived in the house with his whole family. Okay. And I'm saying African American, foundational Black African American man. Okay. And the dude that I was with after that was like Caribbean, right? He was Black from the islands. So for those of y'all who be like, I don't like Black men, that's not true. I've had my long-term relationships have been with Black men, and I have dated Hispanic men in between. Okay. So like, drop the narrative and get up out your feelings. Give me 1 second. Okay, so Charleston White is kind of talking low here, but he said, no wonder why God can't bless Black people, because Black people got a heart of retribution and violence and vengeance. Facts. Let me tell y'all something. Black people with this one case alone have flipped a lot of white people. Maybe some white people who were empathetic and sympathetic to us before. I think for a lot of them, this might have been the last straw in terms of, okay, we letting it go too far. At this point, y'all doing too much. Like at this point, y'all have taken our kindness for weakness. I imagine this is how they feel. Right? Because there's absolutely no empathy shown to this young man. Furthermore, I don't understand why some of y'all be more angry about slavery than the people who were actually enslaved at the time there was slavery. I don't understand why you are so mad about something that you never experienced. And some of y'all might get upset with that because with me saying that because I'm biracial, but let's be very clear. During the times of slavery, I would have been a slave. Okay? Because they went by the conditions of the mother. And back then, the mix was black mama, white father. I know it's different now, but that's what it was. Oh, but you would have been in the house. You don't know that. And maybe I would have, maybe I would. A lot of the times they had brothels. A lot of the times the biracial girls got sold into brothels. Y'all ain't know that though. Y'all ain't know that history. Right? But I didn't experience any of that. I would say let that hurt go, but nobody did nothing to you. Facts. And again, I used to teach in an all black high school, right? Predominantly black. I'm sorry, we had Hispanic kids, but it's predominantly black. Y'all kids are bullies. Love them to death. Did the most for them. Y'all's children are bullies. They jump people. They're too scared to catch a one-on-one fight. I got the footages. I got video. I can't put it on here because they're minors, but I got so many videos that went around the school of these kids jumping. When back in the day, y'all know how we used to get down in school. You used to have to catch the one-on-one. These kids are bullies. So the nerve of y'all to get on this internet and say, well, maybe that white boy will learn to stop bullying. Y'all kids are bullying other black kids and going home alive. What are we talking about here? And y'all don't care. That's another thing. The black community does not care. I never seen none of those parents come up to our school and try to do some type of anti-bullying protest. I never saw any anti-bullying programs at that school. As a matter of fact, the schools don't even call the police on the kids anymore. That's how bad the jumping is. School administration, when I was in school, if you had a fight, they called the police and you got at least got a ticket, or they would take you off of the campus in handcuffs. It got to the point where they're fighting and jumping so much in the schools that the school administration is not even calling the police and issuing tickets. That's how bad it is. It's going on that much. Black people got a heart of spite, vindictiveness, and opportunism. And it ain't all of us, but it's enough. It's a good amount to where that part is making us look bad. I'm gonna say that. You'd be in the house, no doubt. Facts. Ain't no master putting you in no fields, girl, unless he want to get his slave to keeping it 100. Still, y'all know what I'm trying to say. And even then, slavery is slavery. Y'all don't know. That's another thing. Some of y'all hold weird resentment. I'm not talking about you, Jamal. We just on the topic. Y'all hold weird resentment towards biracial and lighter skinned blacks because in your mind they would have been in the house and you would have been in the field, and like y'all just be having resentment just on that alone. Like you felt like their conditions of slavery would have been better, like oh they would have had it good if we were slaves. Get off of that. The schools here call the police over anything, but it's lots of warfare and neighborhood rivalries. Wow, yeah, and Texas, no, it depends on the school district. But 9 times out of 10, if it's an all black school district or predominantly black school district, they try not to call the police. And because they don't call the police, the situation is getting worse. Hmm. We sure did. We used to say, go stand up, go fight them, teach them how to fight. Get your uncle or somebody to show them how to throw hands. It was never go unalive them. There was a girl on Facebook that I went to school with, and I'm so confused because I'm like, girl, we went to the same school. You you seen the same fights that I seen. What are we talking about? So she gets in my comments, well, maybe he did it to him because he didn't know how to fight. And I was like, okay, well, he, just get beat up or walked away. You know, like those are the obvious two answers. Try to fight and get beat up or walk away. She was like, oh, I don't know about that. Get beat up. Squirrel, quit acting like you didn't see folks get beat up in school and go home. Stop. Facts. Facts. That's what I said. Didn't I say that? He's saying the same thing I said. This is a man. Good kids it doesn't escalate to that quickly. That's what's in them. That's the programming. And don't think that this is an excuse. Because I think he needs to go to jail for the max time, in my opinion. I wouldn't even offer him no plea deal. Because the last thing I would want is for him to get out and it be a situation like that situation I was just talking about with that Cuban man and his girlfriend, or that boy who unalived his mom and his brother right after he just got out of jail. That's what's in his heart. He walking around with a chip on his shoulder about something. And then on top of that, he's listening to music that is all day, every day, programming him towards violence. Honestly and truly, and I'm pro freedom of speech, but music is one of those things that penetrates the soul, especially on young, impressionable minds. A grown person like me that's 35, I could listen to certain stuff and it genuinely just be for the vibe, right? These kids, though, all they hearing is red rum, red rum, red rum, and it's got them on a program. But even then, he got to go to jail. There ain't too much you can do for that right there. That is eventually going to snap again. Mm-hmm. None. Charleston White ain't tell no lies. People can get mad at him. They can call him Uncle Ruckus. They can say whatever they want to say. I don't know about Texas, but NYC, Baltimore, Philly, Chicago, Detroit, we different. We are pew pewing and stabbing at age 13. I think because those are northern inner cities and it's more crowded. For example, the way Texas is situated, the neighborhoods are more spread out, right? Everything is far. So even if you do got rivalries or gang rivalries or anything like that, people have to go out of their way to run into their ops. So I feel like because of that, gang violence and the YN behavior is to a lesser degree. Now we got it down south, don't get me wrong, but I never felt like, and I lived in the hood, I never felt like it was as bad as the situations in somewhere like Chicago. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Much like the police, there are some great individuals, teachers and principals in a very flawed system. Yeah. When I was a young kid, I'm not even gonna hold you. When I was a young kid, there were so many times where, and the great thing about Dallas is we got all kind of color police, and most of them are cool, whether they're black or white or Hispanic. Most of the police, in my opinion, in DPD, they're cool. There were so many times they should have took me to jail, but they just talked to me, or they took me to jail. When you get like I was a YN, okay, before there was a YN. I just never unalived nobody. When I was a YN, y'all, when I really think about it, y'all was on probation for 2 years from the age of 15 to 17. I had a cool PO. There were so many times I violated my probation. And when we went before the judge, he omitted all of that information. And yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I don't necessarily have the same resentment that people have toward law enforcement, because there were so many times where they were cool. Did I have a bad run-in with police one time? Yeah. I don't even want to talk about that. But when I think about a kid like me and just how much I dealt with the police, I would say most of the time my interactions were positive. Or it was a situation where it's like, I understand you got to do what you got to do at this point. I'm a Chicago ninja in Toronto. Same here too. Free my son. Keep him locked for now. You want him? Do you want him free, or do you want him to be locked up? Okay, so I'm gonna pull up this lawyer. I'm not gonna like go through the entire video. I'm gonna stop at certain points because honestly, I didn't watch the whole video. But his YouTube channel is Law of Self-Defense. His name is Attorney Andrew Branca, is what it looks like. So y'all can go to his website, check his credentials. It's lawofdefense.com. So he specializes in self-defense cases. He is a self-defense attorney. That's why I don't be trying to hear what none of these people talking about gotta say. You giving your opinions and your emotions and how you feel like it should be. This is what it is according to the law. And like I said before, I knew my state wasn't going forward. Give me 1 second. Oh, I don't even have the man pulled up. Hold on. Why it's not showing up? There we go.
Work today is broken. We're all working in too many disconnected apps, and it's killing team productivity.
This event based on those additional facts and, of course, Texas law on this case. So, as I said last Wednesday, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, 17-year-old young black man, fatally stabbed Austin Metcalf, also 17 years old, happened to be white. Both of them were attending a Texas high school track meet. Both the 17-year-olds were in high school, but in different high schools. Carmelo Anthony.
I don't think he says it during this video, but whether or not he will be charged as an adult, that's already settled. In the state of Texas, according to the law, at 17, you are considered an adult. So, for example, if you commit a crime at 17 in Dallas County, it could be anything. It could be unaliving, it could be theft. At 17, they don't take you to juvenile detention. You go to Lou Sterritt. You go to Lulu. You go to the big house with the grown folks. So whether or not this is going to be charged as a juvenile or adult case, that's settled. This is an adult case.
Anthony, the stabber, quickly fled the scene, discarded the knife he'd used in nearby bleachers. He was shortly captured and arrested, conceded to the stabbing immediately upon contact with police, and suggested he had killed Metcalf in self-defense. Actually kind of asked the question, pondered whether it might have been self-defense. So we have some new information now, and we can explore a little bit more of Texas law, and that's our purpose for all of us today. So as I am prone to do, I did do a couple of quick polls on this, one on Twitter. I asked, what likely verdict do you think the police report will support? Now, Carmelo Anthony has been charged with murder, obviously an unlawful killing. He's going to be claiming self-defense, a justification for that killing, which would make it not a crime. So we're looking at either murder or a justified homicide, or potentially somewhere in the middle, what might be a voluntary manslaughter. So we'll talk about all of that in the context of Texas law applied to the facts of this case. So here's the first poll on Twitter. What verdict do you think the police report will likely support? Justified self-defense, 4%. 4% of you. Mitigated manslaughter, which is manslaughter is a voluntary manslaughter, is a mitigated form of murder. And simply.
Okay. So he put this poll out on Twitter. Let's say this is kind of like a study, a sample of the American people. America is not on the side of these kids, Black folks. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what percentage of Black people are on the side of Carmelo Anthony. I'm not sure. In terms of people who have been commenting on my post on Facebook, the majority who have commented on my page are in support of Carmelo Anthony. I don't know if it's a situation where majority of Black people don't support this or don't support him and feel like he was wrong, but people just aren't speaking out. And we have a small minority that's just loud and proud. That could be the case. But if it is a small minority that's just loud and proud, it's really making the rest of us look bad.
Cold-blooded murder, that is 77% of you. And on YouTube, the results were pretty similar. 2% think the police report will support self-defense, 15% mitigated manslaughter, and 83% cold-blooded murder. Now, I have not read the police report yet. What I've seen of the facts so far, independent of the police report, is making murder look pretty good. In fact, before we look at the police report, why don't we actually take a look at the criminal statutes, so that we're looking at the fact.
That's why I wanted to pull this up, because he actually pulls up Texas Penal Code. That's another thing. People get on the internet and they act like these states don't operate as their own separate countries and that the laws are the same across the board. I'm telling you now, that's not flying in Texas. It's not. Maybe in your state, maybe in a state like New York, where they doing just, they letting people out of jail the next day, where it done got so bad that they gotta have the military and the National Guard on the subway system. But they're not having that here in Texas.
With an understanding of what the law requires. So for the crime of murder under Texas law,
Has your hair hit the hay after menopause? Watch this. Have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror and thought, when did my hair?
No, I'm going to disagree with that. If the roles were reversed, they would not have defended Austin, at least not to the extent that Black people are doing. As a matter of fact, this is what I'm going to do. Next time I come on live, I'm going to pull up some cases where it was, y'all know what's so crazy? Since this happened and the reaction that I seen and the false information, somebody literally made a whole false statement from the Frisco Police Department and gave false information and false details about some. They tried to jump Austin and this and that, and the Frisco Police Department had to say, we never put that out. So me just seeing how we taken this situation, ran with it, just people have completely lied about details and information that has come that was put in a police report, like, and the police report just got released. Like, people literally lying. That made me go back and look at other cases, and I'm like, hold on now, that was not told. Other cases where I was like in support of the Black victim and be like, hold on, they weren't saying this, but it's my fault because I wasn't doing my due diligence. But no, I don't believe, because here's the thing. There have been other situations where a white person has went to jail and behind killing a Black person. So it depends on the situation. I'm going to say this with white people and whether or not they support the perpetrator or the assailant, they are more likely to actually look at the facts and the details. It depends on the situation. There are some cases, I can pull up cases where white people didn't say nothing about it because they didn't support the white perpetrator. In Illinois, he'd get a manslaughter if he were white. They'd get the same time in Alabama or Texas. I don't know. Here's the thing. Y'all got to go case by case, because a lot of the times we see these cases that get sensationalized and we be like, well, if it was a white person, they would never. Meanwhile, you can pull up thousands of cases where it was a white person and they did. It's just not getting media attention. That's what I'm saying. All of this is meant to race bait us and keep us mad at each other. I can pull up plenty of cases where it was a white person and they went to prison. Whites defend the white boy that popped healthcare CEO. Black people did too. Black people did too. That wasn't a white person thing. Black people did too. Hispanic people, you can't even compare these situations. And the reason why people defend, and then you also had a lot of white people who were like, what's wrong with y'all? Y'all are crazy. And the reason why people defended that is not because Luigi was white, it's because they're angry about the amount that they're paying for healthcare. That wasn't a race issue. That was a working class man's issue. White people would have definitely defended it if a white people defending Derek Chauvin. You don't know that. Again, I'm going to pull up and bring to light cases you ain't never heard of where the assailant was white and the victim was Black, and white people never defended it. Y'all remember that? I can't think of the name of them off top, but y'all remember that white dude who had a Black girlfriend and he unalived her? No, not a one white person came out and defended that man. There are so many cases, but all of this trying to make comparisons, that's the problem. We can't see anything case by case. And your personal morality and how you judge a situation is tied to what another human being would think or do. It can't work like that. Principle has to be principle. These people in the system are not stupid. Black people are the most predictable people on the planet. Unless it's a BLM psyop, they have to make an example. I personally feel like whether Carmelo Anthony was white or Black, as a teacher, they need to make an example, because you cannot have students coming to the track meet, unaliving each other over an argument. It's about the system, and it's a class war where race may overlap, but sometimes have morphed into new oppression. I could name thousands of cases where whites defended that's just a facts. I ain't seen them. And then there are some situations I ain't even gonna hold you. When I start going back and looking into the cases and the actual details, I'm like, okay, yeah, when you apply the law to it, let's continue.
Hair gets so thin. Yeah.
I'll pull that up in just a moment. Now, I do want to remind all of you, to please meet the conditions of the old statute. So we're going to skip this part 8 to get to the actual crime here. What does it take to have committed murder under Texas law? Well, you commit the offense of...
And I want to pull this up because the law isn't racist. There's no mention of race in this law. So Carmelo Anthony, I have no doubt, will be convicted of something. What it is, I don't know. It's looking like unaliving in the first degree. But when he gets his sentence, I don't want y'all to be all over this internet talking about he's racist and if it was a white person, this and that, because this law makes no mention of race. Let's continue.
Of murder, if you intentionally cause the death of an individual. That's one way to commit murder. Did Carmelo Anthony intentionally cause the death of Austin Metcalf? Well, he stabbed him in the chest, stabbed him in the heart with a knife. You're presumed to intend the natural consequences of your conduct. You stab someone in the heart with a knife, you know you're likely to kill them, so you're intending the natural consequences, their death. That's murder. Now, importantly, it's murder unless it can be justified as self-defense. Self-defense is a legal defense to this conduct. If you did this, if you intentionally stab someone in the heart with a knife, but you can meet the conditions of the self-defense justification, then this is not a crime. It's not always lawful to kill people. Sorry, it's not always unlawful to kill people. If they're killed in lawful self-defense, the killing of another person is simply not a crime. Or alternatively, you commit murder if you intend to cause serious bodily injury and commit an act clearly dangerous to human life that causes the death of an individual. I think we're well beyond that with the stab to the heart here. Then they have felony murder. That's not relevant here. And then they have if you kill someone with illicit drugs, controlled substances, like you give them an overdose or something. That would all qualify as murder. Murder isn't a felony offense of the first degree under Texas law. I'm not super familiar with Texas sentencing. I looked it up. A felony of the first degree in Texas law is good for 5 to 99 years or life. Now, obviously, I would not expect a intentional murder to get a sentence of 5 years. There must be more to the sentencing structure than that. But Carmelo Anthony is looking prospectively at 99 years or life in prison. What about manslaughter? Well, Texas does have a separate manslaughter statute. This is kind of interesting facet of Texas law, actually. Let me pull it up. Most states that have a manslaughter statute will define both voluntary manslaughter and involuntary manslaughter in the manslaughter statute. Texas doesn't do it that way. It has both crimes, but the manslaughter statute in the penal code only refers to involuntary manslaughter, which is reckless manslaughter. We see that here. A person commits an offense, manslaughter, if they recklessly, not intentionally, but recklessly cause the death of an individual. Recklessness is when you knowingly create a risk of death to someone else, like drunk driving. You ignore that risk and someone dies as a result of your conduct. Also, if you're mishandling a firearm, like Alec Baldwin was, that would be a reckless manslaughter. Instead of defining the other form of manslaughter, voluntary manslaughter. So in reckless manslaughter, you're not intending to harm anybody, right? The person driving home drunk from the bar isn't intending to harm anybody. He's just trying to get home. But he's engaged in reckless conduct, and if he kills someone, it's reckless involuntary manslaughter. His use of force against that person was involuntary. The other kind of manslaughter is voluntary manslaughter, where you're intending to use force against that other person. What makes that, and then they die as a result. Texas doesn't put voluntary manslaughter in the manslaughter statute. I'm not sure why. Instead, in a rather complicated way, it actually buries it in the murder statute for Texas. So let's go back and take a look at the murder statute. Now, the concept is the same. It's just a weird way of them structuring the law like this.
Okay, let me pause. Let me look at some comments. Okay, race issues are nowadays used as tools. I only can't call out blatant racism that matters, not racism. Racism that don't they know better off than us. Really, it's a class war. Right is right, wrong is wrong. Yes, all of this comes down to classism, class warfare. That's why Trump did so good in this last election, right? Pitting the races against each other is just a tool of the elites. And that's why we got to stop doing this. You got to stand on principle if you want to move forward. If we're going to move forward, it has to be about principle. It can't be about this tit for tat and then people cherry picking, because this is the problem. People do a lot of cherry picking of these cases and the law and this and that. They leave out details, lie about details, don't actually go look into the court case, don't actually listen to the prosecution or the defense. They just go based off of these memes on social media or something people said on social media, and we allow people to get us into our emotions. Because when he pulls up the police report, as y'all are going to listen to, all of this, the twins tried to jump him, none of that is in the police report. It's not even suggested. So he'll get 15 and get out in 10. If he takes a plea deal, maybe. Honestly, I could see him not taking a plea deal because people on the internet are going to gas him to thinking that he can win. But he might get scared and take a plea deal.
So we already talked about charged with murder. You go to trial on murder. You get tried on the charge of murder. The jury convicts you of murder. Now you're at the punishment. The guilt stage of the trial is over. You've been found guilty of murder. Now the judge has to sentence you. This is the punishment stage of the trial, post-conviction. At that punishment stage, the defendant, now the convicted, can raise the issue as to whether he caused the death under an immediate influence of sudden passion arising from inadequate cause. So something that would have made anybody hot-blooded. If the defendant proves this is what happened by a preponderance of the evidence, instead of the killing being a felony of the first degree and potentially life in prison, it's mitigated down to a felony of the second degree, which carries a sentence of 2 to 20 years instead of possibly life in prison. So this is what most states would call voluntary manslaughter, a mitigated form of cold-blooded murder. Now, what is it? Then you have to go all the way back up to the statute to find out what they meant when they said adequate cause and sudden passion. It's a very weird way to structure a statute. Adequate cause necessary for a finding, a mitigation to manslaughter, would mean cause that would commonly produce a degree of anger, rage, resentment, or terror in a person of ordinary temper, So not someone with poor emotional control, sufficient to render the mind incapable of cool.
I'm glad he said that, because this shows a lack of emotional control. Y'all are going to see in the police report, before Austin even came and told him he needs to leave, other people in the tent had asked him to leave. So it wasn't just Austin. Other people had asked him to leave, per the witnesses. I don't know why you would want to stay somewhere where people don't want you to be, even if it is raining. It's just rain. It's rain. I don't know. Maybe I'm just saying that because I live here in Medellin, Colombia. People walk outside in the rain. It rains so much that you're gonna forever be in the house talking about you ain't going outside because it's raining. People be walking around with rains, with umbrellas, no umbrellas. I don't care if it was raining cats and dogs. If them people told you to get out of their school tent, you gotta go. You gotta go. Okay? Like, it's not that show to sit and go back and forth with people is wild to me. I would have got up and left. Even if I would have left with an attitude, I would have left. I would have been too uncomfortable to try to sit there.
Reflection. So you're walking outside, taking your wife to dinner downtown, and somebody walks up and spits in your wife's face. Might that be adequate cause to produce a degree of anger, rage, resentment in a person of ordinary?
I think it's possible they throw the book at him, Jamal. They might not. First of all, because it's happened at a school function in Texas, and not just that, because of the amount of social media attention this has gotten. Another thing that people in Frisco don't play, they're going to make a big deal about this. And because how it's been racialized, the things that Black people have been saying online, I'm not going to lie. If I was a white person, I'd be pissed off. I'd be very pissed off of the things that are being said. So I don't think this is going to be a situation where they just slap him on the wrist. I don't. The father said they told him to leave, and then he said, make me. Yes, that's in the police report. At the point where he said, make me, that is provocation. Let me tell y'all something. Again, I'm from Texas. I got into a fight with a girl one time, and I got in her face. And I said something to the effect of, like, hit me, B. And she did. And we fought. In my mind, I was trying to avoid getting in trouble by getting her to hit me first. Do y'all know who got the charge, even though she hit me first? Me. And the police officer explained that according to law, I was the aggressor. Because not only did I get in her face, I told her to hit me. So she did. That is how Texas law works.
Temper? It seems likely. And what does sudden passion means? Because the adequate cause has to have resulted in sudden passion, that hot-blooded state. Means passion directly caused, rising out of provocation by the individual killed or another acting with them, which passion arises at the time of the offense and is not solely the result of some form of provocation. So it can't be some pre-existing animus, for example. That's what would be required to mitigate this killing from murder to manslaughter. And then, of course,
that's another thing I was trying to tell y'all. Y'all trying to make it seem like they had a prior relationship and beef, and this boy had been bullying him forever, which none of that is true. None of that is in the police report. None of this stuff y'all are saying is true. But y'all trying to build this case is actually building a case for the prosecution that this was premeditated. If that stuff was even true, the thing is that stuff is not even true. Y'all just out lying to stir the pot. I'm not talking about the people that are subscribed to me. I'm just saying the people who are doing this.
We have self-defense, the legal justification. Now, people are making a big deal out of the fact that Carmelo Anthony, when he was arrested by police, immediately told them, yeah, I stabbed him. That doesn't make the stabbing a crime. And it's not inconsistent with lawful self-defense.
Sorry, y'all.
Self-defense, the legal defense of self-defense is inherently a defense of confession and avoidance. You have to concede that it was you who committed the use of force in order to claim self-defense. You can't say it wasn't me, I wasn't there, I have an alibi, and also I did it in self-defense.
So he's now going to bring up the self-defense statutes. Now, y'all listen to this and y'all tell me if y'all think that Carmelo Anthony has a case in Texas.
When you're claiming self-defense, you're not saying it wasn't me. You're saying it was me, I did it, but I meet the conditions for that to be justified as self-defense. And those conditions, of course, are spelled out in the Texas Penal Code for self-defense. In this context, deadly force self-defense, because obviously deadly force was used. A knife to the chest is always going to be deadly force.
Y'all hit the like.
Folks, I see comments and stuff in the chat, but if you're on YouTube and you have a comment or question you want me to address directly, it needs to be a $5 super chat minimum. That's just the way we do it around here. That's just the way we do it. If you're a Law of Self-Defense member, of course, just put your comment or question in the chat, in the members only chat, and I'll address it there. So, what's required for a use of deadly force, the stabbing of Austin Metcalf by Carmelo Anthony? What's required for that to not be murder, not be manslaughter, but to be lawful self-defense? Well, it could be, sorry about that, I'll make it a little bigger again. It could be a justified killing, not a crime. If Carmelo Anthony, first of all, would be justified in using non-deadly force. Beyond that, if Carmelo Anthony reasonably believed his use of deadly force was immediately necessary to protect him against Austin Metcalf's use or attempted use of unlawful deadly force. So if Austin Metcalf was conducting himself in such a way that a reasonable and prudent person would have believed he was about to use deadly force upon Carmelo Anthony, then Carmelo Anthony would be legally privileged, justified in using deadly defensive force. Another way to put this is that Carmelo Anthony stabbing to death of Austin Metcalf would be a justified homicide and not a crime, not murder or not manslaughter, if Carmelo Anthony committed the stabbing in the reasonable perception that Austin Metcalf was about to bring unlawful, imminent, deadly force against Carmelo Anthony. And the question then for us becomes, well, is there evidence to support that justification narrative? Is there evidence from which a reasonable person could have perceived that Austin Metcalf was presenting himself as an imminent, unlawful threat of deadly force harm to Carmelo Anthony, that required Carmelo Anthony to stab him in the chest, stab Austin Metcalf in the chest, and kill him? That's where we're at. Those are the questions for us. Now let's take a look at the facts that we have in the police report to see if the police report provides us with facts that would support a reasonable perception of Austin Metcalf presenting as an imminent, deadly force, unlawful threat to.
Hey, my English not so good.
Do you mean my English isn't very good?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Carmelo Anthony.
Now, I'm glad he's going to bring up the police reports, because there were people on social media saying kids that were there were saying that Austin was bullying him and that the twins are bullies and all that. None of that is going to be in the police report. None of this stuff.
And here we go. All right. Frisco Police Department arrest reports.
I'm glad you brought this up, Now, if Carmelo was getting jumped by the twins outside of school in a public place, then it could be self-defense, but the situation is not it. He's going to bring that up. And that might not be the case either if you're getting jumped. It seems like it depends on the situation. It depends on the situation.
Anthony. Oh, it's Carmelo Sincere. His middle name is Sincere. That's nice. Carmelo.
But it should be noted that not one witness on the scene said that the other twin laid hands on Carmelo. So this is a one-on-one, period. All of these lies about he was getting jumped, that never happened. Or at least nobody that was actually there and saw said that it happened.
Sincere Anthony, age 17, born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, employed as a cashier at HEB, started April 2nd. He started that day. The day he stabbed Austin Metcalf is the day he started his job as a cashier at HEB. I'm pretty sure he's not employed there anymore. Charged with Penal Code 19.02 C. Let's see. 19.02 C. Yeah, that's just murder, first-degree murder. So, narratives, initial narrative. Officer Eduardo Cortez at April 2nd, 2025 at 10 o'clock in the morning. Staley School Resource Officer.
Okay, I just want to make it clear, because to everybody this matters. The officer that wrote this particular report is not a white person. Sounds Hispanic. Eduardo Cortez. That is a Hispanic person. Let's be clear about that.
Officer Cortez, that's this guy, heard over the radio dispatch call out a stabbing at the stadium. Frisco PD indicates an athlete was stabbed. The suspect was reported being a black male wearing a gray hoodie and blue sweatpants. I left my office, ran across the parking lot to the stadium. As I entered, 2 high school age students informed me the victim was on the north end by the bleachers. I proceeded to the north end of the stadium on foot, got closer, saw the Memorial High School tent with multiple individuals. Arrived, an adult male who was on the track pointed out the suspect. The individual that was pointed out to me was a black male wearing a gray hooded sweater and dark colored Nike pants. The suspect at this point was on the track on the north end. There was a chain link fence that separated me from the suspect. I gave the suspect instructions to keep his hands up in the air. The suspect said verbally out loud, "I was protecting myself." So there's the claim of self-defense right there. That alone is probably enough for Carmelo Anthony to meet his burden of production and be privileged to argue self-defense in trial. It doesn't take much. It takes more than zero evidence, and that's probably enough right there. His self-serving statement upon first contact with police. It should be noted, the officer says, that I had not questioned him about the incident when he made that comment. The reason the officer is saying this is because before he's allowed to question a suspect as a suspect, he has to read him his Miranda rights. If he doesn't do that, whatever results from the questioning would be excluded from evidence, would not be admissible as evidence.
Here's the bizarre reason why NASA says you will have better hair in
Commercials.
space.
Oh my
I can't
God.
believe no one told me this, but apparently
Obviously, they want to admit this statement into evidence. They want to make sure there's not going to be a Miranda issue. He made this statement before I sought to question him. So therefore, before I was required to Mirandize him. So the fact that he wasn't Mirandized is irrelevant. This statement, I was protecting myself. I'm the guy who stabbed him, but I did it in lawful self-defense, will be admissible in evidence. I asked him if he had any weapons. He said no. I patted him down for weapons while we were walking along the fence, did not locate any. I instructed the male to continue walking along the fence, which he complied towards an area where there was an opening. The suspect said he put his hands on me. I then detained the suspect in handcuffs behind the back, had him sit on the ground. Officer A. Ricky had arrived on the scene. I conducted another pat down, searched his person after he gave me consent, no weapons located. While he sat on the ground, I advised that I had the alleged suspect The suspect then responds and says, I'm not alleged. I did it. Still would be admissible. And of course, as I noted, required for self-defense. You're not saying it wasn't me. You're saying it was me, but I did it in self-defense. Next, Officer Ricky and I walked the suspect to the patrol vehicle, the other officer's vehicle. As we were walking to the squad car, the suspect was emotional. He said, he put his hands on me. I told him not to. I did not question the suspect. Again, avoiding Miranda issues here. I did not question the suspect about the incident while he was escorted to the patrol vehicle. I searched this person once again, had him sit in the back seat. When the suspect was in the back seat, I noticed fresh blood on his left middle finger. I verbally acknowledged that I saw the blood out loud so that it would be captured on my body-worn camera. It should be noted that the suspect asked me, is he going to be okay, while he was in the back seat. Again, this is just evidence consistent with him having been the person who delivered the stab wound. Officer continues, I then identified the suspect. He provided his name and date of birth verbally as Carmelo Anthony, black male with a date of birth, whatever. I ran that through Frisco PD dispatch. Officer Hancock arrived on scene, remained with me and the suspect, checked via eSchool, a database for Frisco Independent School District students to confirm his identity. It matched the individual I had in custody. Sergeant Holland transported the suspect to the Frisco PD. Hancock and I transported him to the FPD jail. Oh, I was advised by the...
You're saying a lot of Hispanics identify as white. Baby, not the ones in Texas. Trust me, if he was Mexican, which that's most likely he's, I ain't trying to be racist. He's either Mexican or South American. They don't identify as white people. I'm from like that. Frisco is not too far from the city I'm from. Like, I know how the Hispanics there get down. They see themselves as whatever the country they're from, Hispanic. But even then, it's not important, is what I'm trying to say. It's really not important.
The sergeant to transport him to Frisco PD jail. Again, I did not question Carmelo about the incident. Upon arriving at the jail, Carmelo was escorted to the intake area. Jail staff changed him into jail attire. I remained with the jail staff the entire time that he changed the clothes that he had been.
Okay, so that goes back to my point where these are going to be adult charges regardless. In Texas, at 17, you get charged as an adult off the top. That's not even a decision the judge has to make. He's in Frisco PD. He's changing into jail clothes. So it's not like they just are going to put him in a holding cell and wait for somebody to come transport him to the juvenile detention center. No, he's in adult jail right now.
Wearing was placed in an evidence bag. The clothes remained in my possession from this point. So they're establishing the chain of custody of the evidence. So that can't be disputed later. That they were not left unattended and tampered with by somebody, for example. Upon Carmelo being placed in a jail cell, I continued to keep possession of his clothes. I returned to my patrol car, placed the clothes in the back trunk area, drove out of the Sally Port, parked in the parking area. Clothes remained in my trunk until crime scene technician took possession of the clothes. I added my body-worn camera to the case. No further information to report. That was his only involvement. The other officer involved, Allison Ricky, 10 a.m., wearing full Frisco police uniform, operating a cruiser, dispatched to the report of a stabbing at the stadium. Police dispatch advised an athlete.
So we're now talking about a different police officer. This is a separate report. So this is report number 2.
Had been stabbed. The suspect was a black male wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt and blue sweatpants.
Thinking I'm gonna start cutting carbs. I need to drop my belly fat.
Here's the most interesting weight loss fact.
Responded code 3, lights and sirens. Arrived on scene, saw Officer Cortez kneeling next to a black male, later identified as Carmelo Anthony, in handcuffs, seated on the sidewalk. Officer Cortez stated Anthony was the alleged suspect. Anthony then made a spontaneous statement and stated, I'm not alleged, I did it. Officer Cortez conducted a pat search to ensure he did not have weapons, found nothing of evidentiary value. We walked Anthony to my patrol car. He was seated in the rear. Anthony made another spontaneous statement while being walked to the cruiser, asked if what happened could be considered self-defense. I replied by telling Anthony I did not know what happened. It should be noted the in-car camera in my patrol vehicle was activated prior to Anthony being placed in my patrol vehicle. While Cortez assisted Anthony into the car, I noticed he had blood on his left middle finger. I grabbed my department issued digital camera, took a photograph of his hands, later uploaded the photograph to the crime scene folder. Cortez remained in my patrol vehicle and Anthony, while I provided assistance with scene security. Nothing further from this officer. Officer
Okay,
Will
so
Otis,
it sounds like to
10
me
a.m. dispatch.
is that these officers are being very, very thorough and making sure that they are covering their ass. Okay, they're making sure they're turning on cameras. They're making sure that they're following the law to the T.
To the Frisco Independent School District, emergency communication regarding an athlete that was stabbed. Originally unknown assailant was a black male wearing a gray hoodie and blue sweatpants, also had a goatee and short hair. The subject was possibly wearing Centennial High School attire. It was believed he was there for a sporting event. This had all taken place on the
Just to note, this is the third police report.
on the north side of the stadium. The victim was under the Memorial High School tent in the bleachers. At around the same time, school resource officer Cortez arrived on scene, began assisting the victims, trainers, and others. Cortez advised on radio he had a suspect. Otis was working the 50s sector as the sergeant, full uniform, patrol car, relatively close to the call, got there about a minute afterwards, began walking up to the location. The suspect was crying hysterically. Please see other officers' narratives for their involvement. Observed the victim being treated by the Frisco Fire Department, personnel, and trainers. We all know how that.
I actually kind of like that hurt me that he was crying hysterically. Carmelo was the one who was crying hysterically. Like I did feel bad when I heard that. But then I'm like, are you crying because you took someone's life, or are you crying because you know that you're about to go to prison? Which one is it? Because to me that matters whether or not I have some sympathy. Regardless, I feel like he needs to go to prison, but whether or not I can sympathize and empathize with you depends on whether or not you're crying because you took somebody's life, or you're crying because now you know that you're in big trouble.
That worked out, of course. Austin Metcalf was mortally wounded and died. Surely on the scene, he would have bled out very quickly. Let's see. Sergeant Otis began using a city-issued phone to snap crime scene photos to preserve as much of the scene as possible for evidence due to the weather and the large gathering of people. Other officers set up a crime scene with tape, moving non-essential personnel out of the area. Officers were informed that the knife that was used was tossed and was still believed to be somewhere close. Eventually, one of the witnesses said they remember seeing it on the bleachers. Officer Shouws was able to locate the knife. It was located between rows 9 and 10, partially open. The rain began to come down again heavily. So it was raining, which explains why the tents might have been crowded and space might have been at a premium. And people who set up a tent for their group may not have wanted additional people under the tent who were not part of their group. They set up the tent for themselves.
Con solo 2,300 pesos al día, entrega.
If y'all don't watch the Cartier family here on YouTube, so a couple of the brothers, these are black, it's a black family of men. I actually really like their channel. A couple of the brothers actually ran track, and they were saying that when they went to track meets, they didn't like people that weren't on their team sitting under their tent, because that's where a lot of people will just like leave their phones and personal items while they go run their races, and they don't want people that they don't know under their tent. And that's very common, unless you have a friend that's on the team that invites you to sit there, and that so far has not been submitted to evidence that somebody invited him into their tent to hang out with them, right? I would imagine if that was the case, then if he had a friend on the team that told him he could stay, they would have been like, chill, man, he's here with me, you know? South Americans are not Caucasians, even if they are racist against blacks or Afro South and Central American. Yeah, they're not Caucasians. Especially like the ones that are like Mexican and South and Central American. No, they're not Caucasian. They might be biracial or triracial. That's it. He's regretting it bad now. Wish he never did this. He thought he was gonna be able to plead self-defense, which I'm sure he can still plead it. He's not gonna get off on that though. He threw away his life. I'm sure they camera footage too. Yeah, I'm sure there's camera footage as well. Guys, if you're just now coming in, please hit the like button. The camera footage will determine what happens and witnesses. We don't know all the details. Yeah, I mean, here's my thing with that. I keep seeing people say, we don't know the details, or I feel like they're leaving certain things out. And I'm not saying they are, they aren't. But here's the thing. In the court of law, we can only go by what is submitted into evidence. That's it. That is how the jury will decide on what is submitted into evidence. Right. It's a public school. I know they have camera footage of the incident. They might not, though. If they were inside of a tent, they might not. And people are like, oh, well, you know, the kids might have had some recordings. Well, it seems like this was something that happened so fast. The kids might have not been able to pull out their phone. That's happened plenty of times where I was at school and kids had gotten into a fight and it started so fast that even though there were like 50 kids in the hallway, nobody was able to pull out their phone. So this is going to be a situation where they're going to go by what the witnesses that were in the tent said, is what it sounds like to me. And from what they're saying, the law is not on Carmelo's side. Carmelo just got a job and ended up stabbing someone. Yeah, that's true. Hey, Nicole, what's up, girl? Good to see you here. Sad case. Sadly, these crimes happen every day. The difference is the state and crime is committed. I've seen people chase a person and off them in Florida and get off on stand your ground. I think in Texas, yeah, they'll get off on stand your ground. It depends on what happens, right? It depends on it. It depends. It's like a case by case. In Texas, though, so I pulled this up earlier. That's why I have this lawyer here. He actually pulled up the Texas penal codes, right? What are y'all talking? If the average Mexican take a DNA test, majority will come back European. They will be mixed. And that's not the majority, because the extent to which they have European DNA also depends on what part of Mexico they're from. The further south you go in Mexico, the more indigenous it becomes. These things do happen every day, though. They will come back indigenous. Yes, it not all. It depends on the person. Like, we can't make a blanket statement here with their racial identity. They literally have to take a DNA test, and the majority of them are not full European or full indigenous. They have some level of mixture, and that mixture, the degree to which they have European and indigenous blood changes depending on how much mixing went on in that area. It's not the same. Just like here in Colombia, the further you go to the coast, the more African the features become, the higher percentage of African blood you get. The more inland you come, the more you get an indigenous and European mix, and then you throw some black up in there. Okay, let's continue.
Harás 16 sobres de alimento terapéutico cada mes en los departamentos.
The rain began to come down again heavily, and it was determined that instead of moving the knife, the officers would cover it with a blue tarp. Sergeant Otis assisted in preserving the immediate crime scene as much as possible, while the other personnel tended to the victim and eventually transported him. At around this time, Officer Wetzel had the crime scene began logging individuals. One officer released another officer, total of 33 photos. Downloaded them, put them in the crime scene photo, nothing else to report. Officer Taylor Wetzel, The same day, assigned to work the city of Frisco.
So this is the fourth police report.
At 10:02, reported to the stabbing at the stadium. Original call note stated an athlete had been stabbed in the chest. The suspect that stabbed the victim goes to Centennial High School. Athletic trainers were on site, were providing care, advised he was not conscious and not breathing. Now, he bled out by then. The notes also indicated the suspect was a black male with a goatee and short hair wearing Centennial gear. I arrived on scene 10:06. When I arrived, I grabbed a roll of crime scene tape, proceeded to the visitors' bleachers where the dispatch advised the victim was. Walking toward the bleachers, I was approached by a witness who identified himself, began telling me what happened. I asked him where the stabbing occurred, advised it happened under the Memorial High School pop-up tent in the visitors' bleachers. I immediately informed Sergeant Otis where the witness stated the stabbing occurred and gave him the crime scene tape to start securing the crime scene. I then had someone move to the walkway under the visitors' bleachers to further speak with me. The following is a summary of my contact. The witness advised he was sitting under the Memorial High School pop-up tent with his team and was near the victim, Austin Metcalf, and the suspect, who was later identified as Carmelo Anthony. Anthony was from Centennial
So this is a child that is under the tent at the time the event happened.
High School and was sitting under the Memorial High School tent. Austin, the victim, had told Anthony, the stabber, that he needed to move out from under the team's tent, and Anthony grabbed his bag, opened it, and reached inside and proceeded to tell Austin, "Touch me and see what happens." No one really thought Anthony really had any weapons in his bag, and Austin proceeded to touch Anthony, and then Anthony told Austin to punch him and see what happens. This is provocation.
Okay, so all this talk about he grabbed his phone and broke it, that honestly and truly wouldn't have mattered. It's not gonna make a difference, right? But he's telling the boy, touch me. You grab a weapon and you say, touch me and see what happens. Then the boy touched me. Now you trying to escalate it. Punch me and see what happens. Okay, so here's the thing. I told y'all before, Nicole, you just got here. In the state of Texas, inviting somebody to a fight is considered provocation. You were the aggressor. Again, how do I know? I actually did this, okay? Got into a fight with a girl. I thought I was going to avoid legal consequences if I got in her face and told her to touch me and she touched me first. I got in her face and I was like, hit me, B. She hit me. And guess who was considered the aggressor when the police got on scene? Even though she hit me first, it was me. I was in the wrong. That's how the law goes in Texas. He picked the wrong state to do this in.
With intent, folks. These are facts I had not heard before. The stabber is provoking the victim to use force for the purpose of being able to inflict deadly force upon him. That's the most severe form of provocation with intent, and loses you self-defense as a legal defense. These are bad facts for Carmelo Anthony.
Okay, again, y'all hear it. This is a defense attorney, a self-defense attorney. He specializes in self-defense cases. Y'all hear him. Y'all can go to his website, check his credentials, lawofselfdefense.com. He's bringing the receipts. He read the statutes. He's probably handled hundreds of cases like this, if not thousands. Probably been in the courtroom and heard so many cases and scenarios. And he's saying this is looking bad for your boy Carmelo.
Austin proceeded to touch Anthony, and then Anthony told Austin to punch him and see what happens. A short time later, Austin grabbed Anthony to tell him to move, and Anthony pulled out what the witness recalled as a black knife and stabbed Austin once in the chest and then ran away. Austin began grabbing his chest and telling everyone to get help. You notice he's not instantly dead. It's terrible. I mean, he's mortally wounded. It's all over, but he's got a few seconds to think about things while all the blood is pumped at high velocity out of his body. Telling everyone to get help. The witness advised he did not know Anthony's name, but stated another Memorial Track member was friends with Anthony, and he could identify Anthony. Witness described Anthony as a black male, skinny, with a possible goatee, short.
And the reason why they do that in Texas, you're right, Nicole, but the reason why they do that in Texas is so that you can't play them type of games. For example, when I got in that girl's face and told her to hit me, I knew I wanted to fight. I wasn't trying to avoid a situation, or I wasn't trying to warn her, like, I wasn't trying to avoid the fight. I wanted to fight, right? I just didn't want to be the one to have to deal with the consequences of fighting her, right? I was trying to cover myself. And that's why in the state of Texas, the laws are written like that, so that people with ill intent can't get away with things like unaliving somebody. Still, y'all didn't hear anywhere in that testimony that the other brother jumped in and tried to fight him. So again, that is made up. That is a lie.
Puffy hair, wearing Centennial High School clothing.
Do you think she's just here to learn? Another student, another degree? No.
This concluded my contact with the witness. I was then instructed to start a crime log. Nothing further to add. Officer Jerry Hancock. On April 2nd, while working as the school resource officer at Independence High School, a weapons call was dispatched that detailed a stabbing at the stadium. After hearing more dispatch call information, I drove to the scene. While en route, I heard Officer Cortez said he had a suspect in custody. On scene, I looked for Cortez, went straight to him to hold security with the suspect he had cuffed and secure in the police squad. Multiple witnesses were providing statements to officers where the stabbing occurred. Only a short time later, Officer Cortez and myself escorted the suspect, Carmelo Sincere Anthony, to the Frisco Adult Holding Facility. Anthony was transitioned to the jail staff without incident. Next officer, Alvin Fisher. On April 2nd, about 10:05, I was dispatched to the stadium in regards to a stabbing. When I arrived, the crime scene was already marked off, suspect in custody. I began asking people if there were witnesses to anything. I made contact with witness Hunter and then another witness. They were both breathing heavily and crying due to the nature of events. They were with coaches on the field, and it was pouring down rain. We made the decision to relocate to a locker room just to the east to get out of the rain. Once in there, things calmed down a little bit. However, they were still hysterical and could not really talk. In there, I learned Hunter was the brother of the victim. So this is Austin Metcalf's twin brother, who held him in his arms as he died. I attempted to ask both of them what happened. I could not really get anything out of Hunter, but the other witness stated he wanted to speak. He stated they were all sitting on the bleachers under a Memorial High School tent when another male, who he did not...
So this is the second witness, y'all. So the other police report had a witness testimony. Now this is the second witness testimony, and it's not Hunter Metcalf, the brother, because I know y'all will say there is bias there, which there probably is, but he can't even talk at this point. Okay, so this is witness number 2. That way we can corroborate the stories.
Not know, walked over and sat under the tent. Witness then said Austin, the victim, told this male that since he did not go to Memorial, he had to leave the tent. Austin and the male went back and forth, and then Austin stood up and pushed the male to get him out of the tent. Witnesses said during this time of arguing, the male was reaching around in his bag he had. It was at this time the male took out a knife and stabbed Austin and then left the scene. This was all the witness remembered when he talked to me.
Same story. Same story.
After this, I stood with 3...
Same story. Nobody yet is saying that the brother tried to jump him. So y'all can't use that. Nobody so far has brought up the brother in the altercation at all, other than he was holding his brother after he already got knifed up. Nobody so far has even said that Hunter has even said anything to Carmelo, let alone laid hands on him. Nobody is saying that Austin took his phone and broke it. These are lies.
Athlete witnesses until the Criminal Investigation Division arrived and interviewed them. Next officer, Mike Crawford. Around 10 a.m., I was dispatched to the stadium, arrived on scene, observed medical personnel standing next to a subject later identified as the victim, Austin Metcalf. Medical personnel were actively engaged in life-saving measures, hopelessly. I observed that a crime scene was created around the area, began collecting the names and contact information of bystanders. I met Officer Wetzel, directed him to begin a crime scene log. As he was getting the needed paperwork, I took over his responsibilities of monitoring a witness to the event. Ultimately, the witness was taken to another area out of the rain.
What's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? If you're checking your phone, stop that. Instead, try this technique from the mind.
From that point forward, I was coordinating with different investigators, took no other action at the scene, nothing further. Next officer, Jacob Schultz, working as SRO at the Student Opportunity Center, 10 o'clock, dispatched to a stabbing. It should be noted my location was approximately 200 yards from the stadium. On arrival, I tried to get updated location. I could not see Officer Cortez when I arrived. He informed over the radio he had the suspect in custody. I turned my attention to the victim. Multiple Frisco Independent School District trainers were already performing CPR. I could see blood on and around the victim. Blood would have been everywhere. It would have been sprayed like out of a hose.
Ugh.
At this time, medics arrived and began life-saving measures. Of course, that was all pointless. I used crime scene tape, began to tape off the area. It began to rain harder. We moved a Memorial High School tent over the medics and victim to attempt to preserve any evidence that we could. A coach approached and informed me that he was with a student who claimed to see the entire altercation. I told the coach to stick with the student. We would need to get him to the police station to give a statement. The student quickly informed me that he knew where the suspect threw the knife and pointed me to its location. I located the knife, could see blood on the knife, quickly used my city-issued phone to take pictures before the rain could wash the blood away. Sergeant Otis located a blue tarp. We decided we should cover the knife without touching it in an attempt to preserve any evidence. It was windy and raining hard.
Another officer wrote that so far, no inconsistencies. Everybody is saying the same thing about the evidence and the chain of custody, all of that.
Once we positioned the tarp over the knife, I reached down and grabbed a backpack left in the stands to weigh the tarp down and threw it up where Sergeant Otis was positioning the tarp. It was later discovered that the backpack I threw up on the tarp was the suspect's backpack from which he had presented the knife. It was the only Centennial High School backpack located within all of the Memorial High School backpacks in that area of the stands.
No, Carmelo did not go to school in the hood. He went to school in Frisco ISD, which is the suburbs. It's a nice area, nice big houses. That doesn't mean that, he could have been dealing with poverty. I've seen people live in big houses and don't have food in the refrigerator. What I will say, from working in a suburb, I used to work in a black suburb, DeSoto ISD. If you from Dallas or you from Texas, you know what I'm talking about. A lot of these kids never wanted for nothing in their life. They'd be coming to school in $800 Balenciaga shoes, $700 wigs, brand new from head to toe. They got $1,000, $2,000 worth of stuff. Their parents spending what you would spend on a small wedding or prom. And the kids acted worse than when I went to school in the hood. They wanted to perpetuate that lifestyle. And not just that, the parents, a lot of their parents were first generation out of the hood. So their mentality was, instead of I'm going to teach the values to my children that I wish somebody would have taught me, their mentality was, I'm going to buy my children all the stuff I wish somebody would have bought me when I was a child. But they weren't instilling work ethic and respect into their children. They weren't. They get mad at the teacher if the teacher call and tell them their kid was failing. Or a lot of the football moms and basketball moms and track moms, they wouldn't care about their kids' grade the whole year. But when it comes time to play in the playoffs or a champion game, they calling you, cussing you out, threatening to sue the school. Meanwhile, they haven't come to one parent-teacher conference or called you about a progress report or anything like that. But now they want to sue the school and they kids skipping class every day. I know you getting them phone calls, ma'am. I just typed in Frisco, Texas, and it said best city in America. Yeah, this is not the hood. This is not the hood. Now, that don't mean that he wasn't engaged in hood behavior. I saw a picture of him with what appeared to be like a fake AK. Yeah, I don't think it was real. And he was in the picture with another black kid and some white kids. So like Carmelo hangs out with white kids. You know, this is, y'all got to understand, like when you go to these areas, it's not like the black kids and the white kids ain't hanging out together. They hanging out together, you know?
Securing the scene with crime tape and attempting to preserve as much evidence as possible. I assisted other officers with locating other possible witnesses. Nothing else much there happened. Next, Officer Kyle Pemberton, 10:04, responded to the stadium in response to a reported stabbing. Let's see if there's anything new here. Not really. Next, Officer Justin Newton. I responded to Texas Health Plano to assist with the case, tasked with meeting the ambulance, arriving at the hospital. They arrived at 10:46 with the victim, Austin Metcalf, brought into the trauma bay. At 10:53, Dr. Chow pronounced Austin deceased.
Oh, I don't want to listen to
Once
this
he was
again.
pronounced, staff stopped treatment,
This
disconnected
was
cords
hard.
and
I'm not
tubes.
going to go through this whole thing, honestly and truly. Y'all can go to his YouTube channel, and I'll link it in the description box afterward. His channel is called Law of Defense. So this is attorney Andrew F. Bronca. Again, this is his specialty. He does self-defense cases. Okay. I bet Carmelo's parents are ashamed. They defending it. I mean, and honestly, I don't know. That's so hard because a part of me feels like a part of the reason why we're in this situation to begin with is because these parents will not hold their kids accountable. And my whole thing is, y'all can at least issue an apology to his family and be quiet. You don't got to come out against your son. Because honestly and truly, how the parents feel about it, that ain't even admissible in court, no way. That's not relevant to the case. But like as a parent, come out and apologize to these other parents for what your son did. These white boys want to be with the shit, and because he's black, he has to prove to everybody, especially the white kids, boys and girls, that he's really like that. I don't think it's like that. And let me say this. I went to one of these schools in North Dallas. This is why I can speak to this. So my senior year, I went to a school called Lake Highlands. That's in North Dallas. But that was a school district that used to be like, it used to be predominantly white. Okay. So what happened is, instead of it was in Dallas, right? It was technically in Dallas city limits, but the parents there that have been there for a while in that area, they did not want that school to be a part of Dallas ISD. So it was a part of Richardson ISD, even though it wasn't in Richardson. And basically what happened is they started building a lot of lower income apartments in that area. So the black kids started moving in. And we would mix in, but you can kind of tell, like you could kind of tell there was a little bit of racial tension, but for the most part, we could hang out with the white kids and it would be cool. And I don't feel like now the black kids were off the chain at that school. I got to keep it real. There's videos on the internet of all this brawling and gang fighting and stuff those white kids were not used to. So as a result, actually, a lot of those families there started leaving and going to Allen, Plano, Frisco, or further into Richardson, right? But I never felt like the black kids there were necessarily putting on for the white kids. They were just doing what they wanted to do. Mariah, do you know this YouTuber from Dallas named Sweet Life of Atari? LOL. She has a BBL. No, I never heard of her. I'll look into it. I think it's just really sad. It's really unfortunate. I hope that, maybe if not now, because he's probably in survival mode. And maybe he does. I don't know. I'm not Carmelo. I hope that he feels some type of remorse for what he did, and he understands that this didn't have to be like this. He could have been off of a suspension by now from them fighting. on school ground, because that's what was going to happen. If they had to break that fight up, both of them would have got a suspension. And the police probably wouldn't even got involved like that. It could have literally ended like that. But he decided to pull that knife out of his backpack. And it's all had to do with him not wanting to leave a tent he was asked to leave. I also hope that we learn as a community, everything, we don't have to take on everything as an identity. You don't have to feel like you got to defend Carmelo Anthony because you defending yourself. What he did don't got nothing to do with us. I'm sorry. So we don't have to get in our ego and lie and make up facts, make false statements from Frisco PD, and then Frisco PD got to say, we never said that. Make up fake stories. We don't got to do all that just to avoid saying Carmelo is wrong, because y'all feel like if we say he's wrong, then the whole race is wrong. No, he's wrong for what he did, and he needs to be held accountable. And just because the victim is white doesn't mean that we can't have empathy and sympathy for his family. But you know what I see? A lot of the times when a black child do it to another black child, we don't care, or we act like that's just normal. And then when people try to bring up that this is a problem in our community, y'all even said in the comments, this is a problem in our community, we quickly change the subject or deflect, or we want to talk about a problem that isn't even as big as that. We want to sweep everything under the rug so we don't got to do the inner work. And I don't like that. This comment just happened to be a white kid, but this happens to young black boys and girls every single day. And it's a problem. Oh, he definitely feeling remorse. He locked up around grown men. This individual, they are both our American youth. Yeah. This is individual. Yeah. How old is he? Carmelo is 17. So under Texas state law, with the moment he turns 17, any crime like this means he's charged as an adult. He's in the adult jail right now. So this is not a juvenile case. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to get on to other topics, other drama. Let's talk about Miss Brittany Renner and Kevin Gates. Now, for those of y'all who don't know, I'd be surprised if you don't. Kevin Gates is a rapper, and we've seen him make few interesting transitions. You know, his music is to me, it's very emotional. To be honest, I don't really like Kevin Gates' music. I don't like sad ninja music. I can't listen to Rod Wave like that. I can't. I don't like all that sad. I don't like all that sad stuff. You talking about struggle and pain and all of that. But anyway, he's had some songs I like, and I like him as a person. I'll say that. His interviews are always interesting. Y'all remember when he said he started that car with his two hands? He started the car. Y'all remember that? But we've seen him make some interesting changes. I feel like he's kind of went to like spiritualism and law of attraction type stuff, to Islam, and now like a combination of the two. But it's clear he ain't dealt with his lust. Yes, let's get to the Brittany Renner and Mr. Gates. He's actually he's an Aquarius. He's an Aquarius. Shout out to all my Aquarius men. Because there's a difference between the men and the women. Not that the women ain't intelligent, but like the men are the standouts of that group. Just like with Geminis, the women are the standout of that group. You know, the Aquarian man, he's just on a different level. Another Aquarius who you may or may not like here on YouTube is Princella the Queen Maker. And with Aquarius people like to say that they're like very unemotional and heartless people. Even Princella's girlfriend said that about her, but no, Aquarius is an air sign. You got to make it make sense to them. I know, because I'm a Gemini. Everything is up here with them. Everything is high level. And to a lot of people, it might come off as they're an asshole. You'll hear plenty of people say this about Aquarius men. And Priscilla is more masculine. It comes off as they're an asshole, but no, they just a lot of the times are just ahead of their time with what they're saying. People just can't keep up, and they stay out of their feelings. You know, they're never really in their feelings, you know. He's smart. He's still a knucklehead. Yeah, it's in him, you know. My daughter is an Aquarius. Okay. I'm a cat man and women are equal. Princella is a comedian to me. She might be a comedian to you, but my girl be coming with the receipts. She be breaking stuff down. She's a tactician. She's a tactician. And one thing I can say is I ain't never seen anybody intellectually get up with her like that. And I'm a Gemini. I don't find too many people that impress me. Sorry. That Princella, she's a beast at what she does. You might not like what she says. That don't mean it's wrong. That don't mean it's wrong. Anyway, so let me pull up Brittany Renner's account on Instagram. So y'all know Brittany Renner, she was an Instagram baddie. You know, she's one of the original Instagram baddies. I know she used to play soccer. She's got a banging body. It's all natural. You know, not that matters. People like what they like, but I gotta give sis her credit and her props. She wrote a book called Judge This Cover, where she pretty much told all her business and all the athletes she slept with. And since then, she's even came out on the internet saying she slept with like, what was that? I don't want to make up the number, a multitude of dudes within the same week, like that kind of lifestyle, right? The flued out lifestyle. And because of that, she's gotten some slack. She got with PJ Washington and had a baby by him. Now, I didn't know this, but Kevin Gates has a song where he's basically saying that him and Brittany Renner were actually messing with each other before she got with PJ, and she got with PJ to help her get over Kevin Gates. He be putting all his business in his music. So Yanni brought that up on Real Talk with Yanni. I was like, oh, baby, this some tea, this some drama, So now, y'all know she had that video where she did that interview with Charleston White, and she got so drunk that she was kissing Charleston White in the mouth. I ain't never been that drunk. I'm one of those people, if you give me liquor, I don't care. I remember I'd be on the island. I had one friend, he be like, Mariah, you is a stone cold drinker, and I don't even drink all the time. I might have one drink or a couple drinks every couple months. And then when I go to the island, I'm drunk every day. I wake up and drink, go to bed drunk, and I be on that Brugal, that Dominican rum. I'm still wild. I don't care if I drank a whole bottle of rum that day. I'm watching what's going on. I'm not laying down with somebody I'm not attracted to. I'm not laying down with somebody just to lay down with them. I never have been on that when I get drunk. But people see that and they be like, what? Like, you should be wilding right now. No. So I don't know. I don't know if you could get drunk enough to, I couldn't get drunk enough to, I know for a fact I couldn't get drunk enough to kiss Charleston White in the mouth. Princella is fire. I don't want smoke with her. She needs a good-hearted, understanding man around her. That's all. Well, she'll let us know when she find one. I heard she has a BBL. No, she don't got no BBL. And how you can tell she don't got a BBL is when she turns to the side, her butt actually looks big. But like if you actually look at her butt, she has kind of like hip dips. You get what I'm trying to say? Like it's a natural look. You can tell she be poking her hips out to kind of make her butt look like it's filled out more. Not that it's not big. I'm not trying to say that. But like as a natural girl booty, I can spot it. But she's a viper. Mariah, be careful. Go ask B. Taylor. I did a whole video on that situation with her and B. Taylor. Charleston White said she wasn't drunk. She was acting. She might have been. So she went from that to this. And I heard he said that too. And it just seemed out of nowhere. Look, do y'all see it? So she went from that to now she is wearing hijabs and like fully covering herself, right? And it was just so wild. People were like, now Yanni called it on Real Talk with Yanni. She was like, she got to be doing this for a man, right? Now, I didn't necessarily think there was a man involved. I thought she was just kind of doing it for clout at first. And you had people calling her out, saying things to her, saying she was playing with Islam, that it was a phase, you know, that it will be over in a few months. And she's been consistent with it. If you go on her page, she got a lot of pictures like this. Never would I have put her and Kevin Gates together, but I did a little digging and I found this interview. This is from when they first met, y'all. It's so crazy because I would never put them two together.
Brittany Renner meets Kevin Gates for the first time.
I don't even know if I can play this, but I'm gonna.
Hi. Wow. Hi everyone. My name is Brittany Renner, and I'm here with the one and only Kevin Gates. How you feeling?
Amazing.
Y'all see how thirsty she
thank you.
acting in behind him? I don't see nothing about Kevin Gates. Just looking at him appearance-wise, that would have me acting like that. What?
Hey, this I don't care if you get this on camera. I just want to say thank you for being an amazing person, always living in your truth. You inspire others silently. They probably don't want to admit it, but you know, you inspire me. Thank you so much.
And thank you. Let me tell you something. So my first Rolling Loud I did in 2019 is when I first saw you.
Yeah.
And you were actually, Will and I worked together, and you were the only person that I wanted to see the entire festival. And today,
Oh, so she been had her eye on Mr. Gates. Okay.
2022, it still rings true. You were the only person I wanted to see.
Did you like what you saw?
I actually loved it. I actually love what I'm seeing.
Brittany.
Okay, mind you, this is all while he's married to Drika. She said, I love
the only person that I wanted to see the entire festival. And today in 2022, it still rings true. You were the only person I wanted to see.
Did you like what you saw?
I actually loved it. I actually love what I'm seeing.
Brittany Renner.
Now, it's been speculated that Drika cheated with her trainer, right? And he's talked about this in a song. I don't know if this was during that time where they might have had a falling out, because for him to be married, and he's still married. I believe they're separated, but they're very much still married on paper. I don't know if he was that bold to do all this because they were going through it at the time or what, because he's definitely feeding into her energy. I just think her and Cam Newton are super plastic and disingenuous. Brittany Renner is hot, but in the world of bad itches, she's average and offers nothing. You're way better than her, Mariah. Trust me. Well, I don't want to be in competition with her. And honestly, I feel like she's a very smart girl. I think this is what I feel like happened with Brittany Renner. From very young, she got caught up in the whole Instagram baddie hype. And unfortunately, when you market yourself as a sexual being, it's very hard for you to get out of that box or that stereotype. Even Kim Kardashian, her and Ray J made that sex tape years ago, and she still feels the need to market herself sexually to keep attention, right? Kevin Gates gets freaky at his shows, and he met the right one. Y'all know he a freak, because y'all remember this was last year. That transgender that came out and said that she went, you know, it's a trans woman, went home with Kevin Gates, and Drika was there and just looked. Let me see if I can find that interview. Give me a second. Okay, this is the
like I was like, fuck, what's happening? He was like, yeah, no, he's not out of breath that quick. Let me get this man an oxygen tank. But he was like, can I ask you something? And I go, yeah. And he was like,
oh, they playing the music. Okay. But this transgender woman, Leela Gibney, you can go watch this on TikTok if you want to, talked about how she went home and, you know, had Kevin Gates for the night. And he knew, he was aware. Did y'all see what she did at his show? Hold on. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think Brittany Renner that bad. I would still smash though. She alright though. You know she look good. Brittany look good. Brittany is fine. Brittany, Mariah the Scientist, Mariah Carey, they all have that same kind of aesthetic. She look good. We ain't got a front on the girl, you know. Nothing to wife up or have kids with. I want to D you down, down, down. I want to D you down. Is that the song? And she was on stage at the set. She looked like a straight Tatiana groupie. Nah, don't show it. Hold on. I don't want to see it. LOL. I don't want to know Kevin Gates not solid. He not. Yeah. So she go into details, and I don't remember him coming out and saying she was lying. He just didn't address it at all. But you know, he's Aquarius. You know, he's an Aquarius. To him, that's probably just like being open-minded, you know? I don't know. A lot of these men are like that, y'all. I don't know why y'all act so surprised. So, Kevin Gates has a girlfriend, or he had a girlfriend or a side chick, whatever you want to call a Persian side chick. And she basically came out and put him on blast because Kevin Gates popped out with Brittany Renner and nobody really expected it. Let me show y'all. Oh no, this has music in it. He popped out with Brittany Renner, and where was this at? What interview was this at? A DDG, at DDG's live stream. They had the coordinating outfits and everything. So this was the first time we kind of seen him out. Then later on that day, he put on his Instagram story him out riding around with Brittany. So it's clear that they were a couple. So his Persian girlfriend came out and exposed him.
You literally turned to Islam because you're on your last leg. Women always want to turn to religion as their last outlet. It's honestly just sick how I was just laid up with him and you seen it and decide to hit him up to meet up.
Baby, didn't Chris Brown tell you these hoes ain't loyal? Not these women like this. They'll see that they ex done moved on with another woman into women like Brittany Renner. That's a challenge. That's a let me go get them back. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not gonna make her angry. You know, somebody like me, if we broke up, especially if we just broke up, it's been a couple months or a month, and I see you laid up with another woman, that's gonna make me be like, bro, what? That's not gonna make me think, let me call him and go be sleeping with him right after you was just sleeping with her. That's gonna make me stop messing with you. But a lot of women like that competition, or just to see if they can get the man back interested in them. I'ma feel betrayed.
Just disgusting. He called you washed several times and that you lost your glow. That just goes to show you how this man just uses women when it's beneficial to him.
Girl, this one thing I learned about men. When a man just be sitting up talking bad about a woman, he want her. He just mad or feel away. They just into it. I remember I had an ex-boyfriend, and I've told this story before. And he was randomly sitting there. He was talking about women that wear too much makeup. And he randomly brought up a mutual friend of ours who is a makeup artist and talked about how she wears too much makeup, but she really don't look good without all that makeup. Now, I ain't had nothing to say, really. You know, I'm just kind of like, this is, you know, it was random to me. But when we broke up, she came and told me how he was mad at her at the moment because he tried to smash her, but she didn't want to smash.
Just manipulative and narcissistic. You turned Muslim because it's a...
Okay, let me pull it up on Instagram. Give me a second. Because that ain't all she told. Give me a second. Here we go.
This man told me he's legally separated, so that's that. I simply came onto this platform to express how I feel because I have every right to feel the way that I do. And to any other women,
you know what I don't like that women do, because women are really dragging her. Like, here's the thing, you got to learn the game to get the game. And there are plenty of men. Kevin Gates seemed like that type that will paint a completely different picture than what it completely is. And if you ain't used to dealing with his type, you don't know. Now, me personally, I know don't deal with no man from Louisiana. Period. That's where you messed up. She don't know. She Persian. Y'all be expecting outsiders to be able to recognize what's going on. She's green as hell. Now, he done told her that he's separated and he getting a divorce. We thought that too. After the whole debacle with the trainer. So people are like, "Oh, you're dumb. You were first wrong for messing with a man that was separated but still married." Okay, she got to go through that to learn that, baby. She got to go through that to learn that. I feel like a lot of times these women be super harsh in the comments because they just want to tear down somebody that's fine.
and that are going through the same thing, it's okay to stand up for yourself. Dealing with men that manipulate, gaslight, lie, all of that. I'm sick of it all. I'm sick of this man leading me on this whole time. You know, I in the beginning, I obviously believed everything, but as time progressed, I started to peep all of his bullshit. And again, like I said, I knew what I was getting myself into dealing with a rapper. I know there's going to be other girls around, but it's just the way he went about this situation that was real disrespectful.
You know what's the problem? And I'm sure she learned this lesson here. Doubting yourself. And I used to be that type of person because I give benefits of the doubt because I know what people say about me. People feel like as a woman, if you look a certain way, then you got hella dude, you got a rotation, or you got hella dudes, or you. So I know the things people say about me that are not true. So I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, or I used to try to think, oh, these are the exceptions to the rule, because I know I'm an exception to whatever rule people are trying to put on me, right? But at the same time, I had to learn, no, trust yourself, trust your intuition. So she's saying, oh, well, you know, I knew from the beginning, you know, he's a rapper. I knew what I was getting myself into. But I think what happened is she let doubt about her judgment come in. And then it starts being, well, maybe I can change him. Or maybe the things that he's telling me are true. Or he just rocked with me so hard. He gotta like me like that. Maybe he really cares about me because he's doing XYZ and buying XYZ. What do we tell the women? The actions speak louder than the words. Maybe for a long time he was showing her certain actions. Now, me personally, if I was her, you couldn't pay me for this kind of information. I would have just seen and went on, or maybe said something to him, but publicly I wouldn't say anything because people are mean, they don't care, and they try to use these situations to tear you down. So, like, nobody's gonna have empathy for you, and nobody has empathy for pretty women. Honestly and truly, nobody cares. As a matter of fact, they like to see you suffer.
And now I'm getting threats from his team, from Miss Alvina, the same woman that was just applauding us last week because she was so happy to see us together and wanting to get a house together, and even asked if you could live in the guest house. Now you're mad at me for expressing how I feel?
Now, she shouldn't be. Here's the thing. I understand why she's hurt by Miss Alvina, because we feel like, oh, it should be woman code. See, she's thinking, oh, it should be woman code. Even with Brittany Renner going and hitting up Kevin after Brittany seen her and Kevin laid up together, she's thinking that women operate on some type of woman code, and they don't. They don't. Even a man mama, she'll be acting like she love you. Meanwhile, he got all different kind of girls coming to the house and she acting like she loved every one of them. It's a hard lesson she had to learn. These women don't have girl code, especially if this is her employer. She's loyal to Kevin first. He writes that check.
Now you hate me all of us.
But my whole thing is just don't like, he writes you a check, sis, but you didn't have to say all this. Oh, can I come live? This is not like, don't be fake. You don't got to be fake, but people are fake.
Sudden. People obviously didn't know what me and him had going on. I'm very private. I just believed everything that came out of that man's mouth, and that's my fault. I take accountability for that. Lesson learned, and that's all I really have to say. I want to make one thing very clear. I would never fuck with a married man. This man told me he's legally separated, so that's that. I simply came onto this platform to express how I feel because I have every right to feel the way that I do.
I mean, and y'all can't even be mad at her like that, because Dree could be on that farm. She don't be worried about what Kevin is doing. She probably don't see Drika around like that. They've had a kind of like a weird public falling out. So, like, I think we got to get a girl some grace for being naive and dumb. Now, if she do it again, this needs to be the learning lesson for her, girl. I don't want to hear your name with anybody else or involved with any other rappers after this. I don't want to hear it, sis. I don't want you coming out telling us what they did and none of that, girl. Now, we knew Kevin Gates was full of game. Now you know. This ain't news to us, sis. This is news to you. Let me see what you said. I respect it. Plenty of people turning Muslim. Yeah, but plenty of people turning Muslim, but they not really living by the tenets. For example, I've seen like people saying that the girl was dumb because you should have known Muslims can have multiple women. No, they can have multiple wives. And even then, you got to ask the first wife. You shouldn't get with a Muslim man, and if he's following the word, and expect for multiple girlfriends that he's sleeping with to come from that. Now he living in sin. But honestly and truly, that's, to me, a man being a Muslim is a red flag for me. Because I already feel like you gonna come ask me if you can have a second wife. That already lets me know you ain't trying to be faithful. Am I wrong for saying that? I respect the religion. I'm just saying I wouldn't take that kind of risk. And I'm sure there are plenty of faithful Muslim men who only have one wife out there. I gotta say that. Kevin Gates gets freaky at his shows, and he met the right one. Yeah, she nasty. Did y'all see what she did at his show? Hold on. Okay, hold on. I already read those. Let me go down. Give me a second, y'all. He's a rap star, an alpha male, and very serious about his manly role. Translation, newsflash, he cheats. I mean, you can't tell me any man that done laid down with a trans woman is an alpha male. That don't mean I don't like him as a person, but I don't see nothing alpha male or masculine about that. He didn't even need to lie or diss his wife. Just say, I want to smash. I'm Kevin Gates' girl, and she's going. Well, we don't know what he told her. Apparently, he talked about getting a house with her. Right? I have another video. Let me pull it up. Persian women are queen. Yeah, they're very beautiful. Now, her being Persian, she probably really believed he'd actually leave Drika for her. She's green. She don't know. Other women would just join the rotation and climb the ranks or get what they want out of the situation and cut. That's probably what Brittany Renner is doing. She probably don't care about none of that. Brittany Renner the type, if Kevin Gates asked her to jump in bed with Drika, that's what she gonna be on. Look, here's another video. Hold on, give me 1 second. Of him talking to the girl on the phone. So you know he was running game.
Hello.
Salam alaikum.
Hey.
Where you at?
At home.
Oh, come here. You come here.
Ugh.
Huh?
You want to go get a little bite to eat?
Why are you laughing?
Oh, did you want to go get a little something to eat?
She don't even really too much understand what this man is saying. She just know it sound good. It's some lingo she ain't never really heard before. Okay, this is exotic to her.
Yeah, I just took a shower.
Oh.
I could get dressed.
Yeah, go ahead. Hurry up, though. Don't be too long. We'll step out, go get us a little bite. Out behind some flowers and a card, a piece of paper.
I mean, yeah, I feel like love should be every day, not just on a specific day.
I'm trying to celebrate you every day. Yeah.
It's still cute. It's still cute. I'm gonna get dressed. Where are we going?
Ain't no telling where we going. You know, we just going here. Hey, y'all ain't the only one celebrating now. You know, yeah. You know, y'all ain't the only one celebrating now. You know, hey, you know, yeah. You know, hey, great valuable statue, man.
Hello.
Salam alaikum.
Okay, so he's taking her out for Valentine's Day and all of that. Okay, so I understand why she's confused. Women operate on a woman code for guys at my level, not high value men. These women don't even operate on women code for these dudes that's sitting up in jail. They don't operate on woman code at no level. I didn't take the trans part into account. Yeah, to me, he not masculine. He just freaky. He just a big old freak. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm saying he's a big old freak. And I believe he manipulated this woman. He knew she was green. I don't understand why people are being so hard. And people are like, Drika forever. Nobody compares to Drika. And it's like, girl, Drika not even thinking about Kevin. Y'all be going harder for his relationship with Drika than he be going for his relationship with Drika. I'm gonna need y'all to calm down, okay? Sis is not thinking about Kevin Gates. With that said, I think it's messy. The moral of the story, ladies, is don't mess with dudes who are separated. Don't mess with dudes who, you know, like men like this. Here's another thing. Learn people's culture. Before you get too emotionally invested or too deep in, learn their culture. For example, if you're not familiar with Latin American culture, if you're a woman and you come here to Latin America and these Colombian men are calling you reina princesa, amor de mi vida, man, you finna get played. Do you hear me? You don't know that's how they talk to everybody. And certain men, that's how they love bomb. They do stuff like that. That's why a lot of these American women, it's not just the men. A lot of these American women are coming down here and these men are running their pockets. Okay? I done heard some stories. So take the time to learn people culture before you get too emotionally invested into them. You know, that's all I'm going to say on that. With that said, guys, it has been a bomb lunch hour. I have some things I got to do. I got to cook. So I will see y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a good day.